All right, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our November Lunch and Learn. I'm excited about today. It's a nice turnout. Thank you very much for lunch, guys. I appreciate that.
Thanks for coming out this afternoon. And Lisa and Jim, I invite you to listen from a perspective of just how this may be something that could add to how you already work with folks. So we're not a recruiter, we're not a placement firm, anything like that. So just want to acknowledge the power in the room as far as HR so that we give that back to you. So today you're going to learn what you can do to beat the odds and hire top performers. How many of you have ever hired the wrong person, whether it's in your business or in your career? And how many of you would like to know how to avoid hiring the wrong person? Okay, great, thank you. Well, by the end of today, you're going to be ahead of most companies in the world because this one key aspect of hiring is overlooked by about 92% of the companies that exist. And you need to know about this because it can mean the difference between hiring a top performer or paying more into unemployment. And how many of you are excited about giving the government more money? Didn't think so. So what is it that we're actually talking about? We're talking about the pre-hiring process. And so the whole pre-hiring process is anyone ever needed to hire somebody that you knew you couldn't quite afford them, or you knew you couldn't quite pay them as much as you wanted to pay them, right? So you brought in a friend or a family member, and you love them, but they can't get the job done. So yeah, it's that kind of pre-hiring process. And the pre-hiring process begins the moment you hear the words in your head, I need to hire someone. So getting the pre-hiring process right, so the result is that you only attract and hire top performer candidates, means that you have absolute clarity on 3 mission-critical steps, which we'll talk about in a minute. Now, chances are when you started your company, you weren't thinking about your people strategy. It just wasn't at the top of your to-do list. Is that fair to say? Yeah, I'm seeing heads nod. But now to make your company grow and succeed and flourish, you want to attract and keep the best. And it's critical to your performance and your profitability. So I'm curious, I'd like to hear from just a couple of you about what brought you here today. I know that Chris put this together kind of at the last minute, and so there was something in the title that he thought had people be interested in taking the time out. So can somebody share with me, what was it that you saw for your company? What do you want to hear from today that's going to help you out? So, so what some people have said are just in why they're interested in being here today is it's heartbreaking to have to let people go, right? That people haven't maybe hired yet, but at least having some sort of a system and process is going to help save them a lot of time by having some sort of a system, right? And how to get rid of people, possibly, and refine the process. How to have people actually say yes and take the job as opposed to using it as a bargaining chip. So is there something that this could help with? And then expand the screening because sometimes the pool of candidates is too small. Have I gotten that so far? And so the other is retaining top talent in ways other than giving them more money, right? It's like yesterday's reward is tomorrow's expectation, right? That's what starts to happen. Okay. Anything else? Great. And I just want to get a sense in the room of who has less than 5 employees. Raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. And more than 10? Okay. Thinking about it. 10, okay. And more than 20? Okay. All right. Terrific. Well, just so you know that as we go into this, you'll see that the technology works for all sizes of companies and all positions, whether it's from the boiler to the boardroom or the cashier to the CEO. And so I just want to give you just a little bit of background on myself. I've worked in corporate America, represented a lot of different companies, and written books and had a lot of really great experiences in broadcasting, journalism, public affairs. But the biggest pain for me was that one moment that I had where I said, this will never happen again. And I swore these words up and down in my head as I watched my once bright, enthusiastic staff plummet in their morale and their excitement. Because there it was, I looked and I had hired the wrong manager. And I had people around me. We thought this was going to be great. We hired the quarterback, and the quarterback turned out to be the water boy. So we all had to work harder to pick up the slack. We doubled up on assignments, and it was a situation where politics were involved. So short of a scandal, there was no way that we were going to get this person out of there. And this one bad call drove me to really find out how I could do this and never make the same mistake again. Because I saw staff so demoralized, and they were an award-winning staff. So I lost sleep, and I just overcompensated and ran interference just to keep them engaged and great and making things happen. And I was really determined to find the secrets to figure out how the heck can we avoid this. So fast forward 17 years, and I now get to teach employers how to embrace potentially new tools that can possibly help cure bad hires. And I want to be able to bring this to you because it's something that somebody pointed out earlier. They said, I thought that I was going to see lots of years of HR experience in here and everything else. No, my background is mostly in leadership and communications and having teams work. And what I wanted to do was find something that also in 2008, when the crash hit, companies, the first thing that they got rid of was training. And they said, well, I need to know that this is going to make me money. If I'm going to train people, how is this going to hit my bottom line? And so I kept looking and looking and finally found something. And so far, from what I can see, this is the only tool that I've seen that actually has a return on investment formula for every company. So that's what's really exciting. So a lot of the big recruiters, headhunters, consulting agencies, temp agencies don't know about this yet. Some of the temp agencies are starting to embrace it, and that's giving them permission to go back to a company and say, let's look at your job descriptions freshly, and let's take a look and let's start to match this up a little differently. So it's not their fault that they don't know this, they just never worked backwards from the pain to get it right. And this was born out of turnaround management, and had to find a way to really fast to make companies go from red to black. So why should you care about bad hires? Because you actually pay the price. You pay it in time and money and disengaged employees. The Gallup organization estimates that disengaged employees cost the US between $450 billion to $550 billion. And of course, there's the dip in productivity in the bottom line. So you'd want to know how to turn that around, right? And Career Builder says that 7 out of 10 employers this year have already had a problem with a bad hire. Now the cost per company is $25,000 to $50,000. And that's the cost in going out and looking for the person, having to retrain somebody, and the loss in productivity. Now I just want to take a second and be clear that you don't want to confuse a bad hire with a bad person. A lot of times we collapse them. Does everybody know what I'm talking about? Yeah. So just this past week, one of our clients decided to let go of a really great team player, lovable guy. Everybody thought he was terrific. He just simply wasn't wired to do the job. And the manager noticed that this once happy-go-lucky kind of guy just didn't really smile much anymore. And after we worked with them, she was really able to see that he just wasn't, there were parts of the job that he could do, but most of the time he was doing what he wanted to do instead of actually getting the job done. So she said that he only, 90% of his work was really good, and 10% was not working so well. But that 10% was causing a 60% inefficiency in the rest of the company, because that 10% was the final product going out the door. And he didn't catch the mistakes or the small blemishes, which meant that everything had to go back, be taken apart. They had to use more people, more money, and call the client and say, sorry, it's going to be delayed. So funny thing about it, what we call are transparent conversations. She was able to have a conversation. He said, you know, I don't really think this job is working out. I'm really stressed. She said, you know what? We're really stressed. So he's going to be moving on. And so now they're doing the important organizational work that there is to do so that they don't keep hiring the same wrong person over and over again. And that's why Chris brought us here today, to show you a way that you can actually save money, save time, and some aggravation. So I want you to just take a minute, if you have a sheet of paper in front of you, and write down one thing that you absolutely love about what you do. And then write down 3 things that you don't like doing, or that you think that you don't need to spend quite so much time doing. And just keep an eye on that as you go through this and listen for yourself about why you might like things or why things might make you crazy. So the truth of the matter is that there's so much frustration at work that people are just disengaged, they're falling asleep on the job, they're worried, they're stressed. How many of you have ever called a phone number and somebody's grumpy on the phone, like, why did you even call here? Anybody had that? Yeah. People have gone to lunch before breakfast break. Or they just are dropping the balls and you don't really know why. And every time that this isn't addressed, then it's just money. And it's just money that's just pouring out of your business, and it's just going down a black hole. So the question is, how do we stop it? And a lot of times, the other thing we run into is that when people think about hiring people, they don't really believe that they can hire the best, that that's not available to them. Because people feel like they've tried it all before and it's pretty hopeless. You believe that good people are hard to find. You're resigned that people can ever possibly care about your business as much as you do. Or we've met a lot of people that are fine with the churn and burn because they figure eventually they're going to come across a good one that'll work. So getting the hiring process right is helpful. And we've worked with companies like IBM, United, and Blue Cross Blue Shield to be able to bring this technology in there. 33% is the amount of people of human capital efficiency that we typically find in any company. And companies are surprised. Even if there's change management, they find out that, wow, we thought that everybody was, we knew we didn't have 100%, but that's a lot. 70% of the workforce in America is not even engaged in the work that they're doing. And across the globe, it's 90%. I think that's a crisis of the human spirit. One of the things that we do is we give CEOs back 60 to 80% of their day, of their time that they're already spending doing things that they don't need to be doing or that they've hired somebody else to do. And when you have 60 to 80% more of your day back, how many more phone calls can you make? How many more client meetings can you make? How many more deals could you be doing? That's what you want to think about. So this is just one of our clients. If he could have quit his job to actually go out and talk about this, he would. But instead, he's growing his business. And this is what he's had to say after the process. Well, went by too fast, but up 5 months in 40%. And Denise, my partner here, her background has been in the financial services industry, and so this is just one of the many case studies that we have over a 12-month project with a financial aftermarket securities broker. We typically work with whole companies and across different departments, and so you can see that the sales staff average was $320,000 a year, and after we were able to come in, they were at $1.4 million a year. And the cost of sales, you can see the improvement. This is a medical radiology company, and again, working across the board, their losses were at 20%, got them to 18% in the positive side, and their cost of labor was able to be reduced 64% down to 31%. And this does not have to happen through layoffs. It can happen through restructuring and simply finding the A-B performers that right now just are not matched in the right position. Basically, has anybody ever seen the movie Moneyball? Okay. So once upon a time, baseball was it was whoever had the most money was able to get the best players, and that was how that went. And Moneyball goes through the story of how suddenly they found an algorithm. They found a different way to be able to pick players. And it came from, off of the radar screen of Major League Baseball, but now it's actually how players are selected. And so this is also an algorithm-based technology. So let me show it to you really quick. It was created, again, out of turnaround management. You'll see these squares a lot, and they're different for everybody. The chances of anybody having two exact same scores or showing up the same way is 1 in trillions. And the gentleman that invented it is Lynn Taylor, and he helped invent the ultrasound technology and the first voice recognition technology. And he was doing turnaround management, and they were going well, but he would get a call about 18 months later from the company saying, hey, somehow we got back in the same spot. And he knew that somehow people had to do with that, because he was hiring people, and like many of us, really prided himself on that being able to work. Went out and bought all of the different assessments that are out on the planet, looked at them, and one Sunday morning, kind of like a scene out of A Beautiful Mind, just the algorithm came together. And what happened was he discovered a way to measure underneath personality and underneath behavior to the wired-in, unchanging nature of a human being. So it's just how you're wired, the natural bent of a human being. And over time, being able to apply this to companies, the turnaround started to stick. And not only that, the companies became profitable in record time, between 40 and 400% in 18 months, by being able to make sure that the right people were in the right seats. So it's a 98% repeat reliability score, and for those of you in the world of HR, most of the assessments out there are between 42 and 75% repeat. So that means if you take it a year later, chances are you're going to be very similar. So it answers, who are we? Who are we and what are we here for, and what is our ultimate contribution? And we only have a certain amount of time, so doggone it, let's make it good, right? Does that work for everybody? So each of us has a set of unique core values, and we have the delightful variation of parents and environment that can warp us so that those values may show up strong or may not. But what we know for sure in the workplace is that when a person is in a task that doesn't suit them, that isn't an expression of this natural bent, then he or she will fail. And it's not failing like epic fail, but they can feel like a failure because they're just not getting the work done that they know they could be doing. And they start to redesign the position. They'll do something else where people are going, wow, that person does great stuff like this. And they're like, yeah, but where are the numbers? What happened to them, right? And it disrupts the workplace. They can become disruptive, or the actual disruption. If you think of your company as an ecosystem, or as even a pebble in a pond, you can see the ripple effects that start to take place. And what happens is people leave. And quite often what happens is it's your best player that leaves. It's not the person that's causing the disruption, right? So this is the Core Values Index key, and normally we go through a training and really take you through a lot of this, but today we're just going to have fun with Chris, because he offered. So this is Chris's result, and all of you know him much better than we do, but he is somebody who can talk with you about your business and see what it is that you need to do quickly, and he can dip into seeing the systems that make that work for you. And he can do this all day long till the cows come home. And sometimes some of you may want him to settle in one spot, like, well, Chris, I want to talk about that a little bit more. And he might be a little more predisposed to taking action than you are in that moment. Or you might want to sit and figure something out a little bit more, and he already saw that, and he's like ready to go. So he's a little bit, at the gate, ready to just move something forward. And so let me just check in. Does that sound like some of you? And I'm seeing, okay. So, and he can also see some of the facts and the things that you have to know about your business, but do not expect him to look at the tax code and learn it inside out. He's not going to do that for you, or write your manuals.
Or any kind of math.
And Wade is different. Now, who works with Wade? Wade, do you have people? Okay, all right. So Wade is just going to be this heartfelt kind of presence that walks in the room and talk with you about your business, talk through the ideas, and then want to get something done. And he's not going to sit and think about the systems and how to do that, but he'll be able to give you the facts and figures that are going to really help you make sure that you have the confidence to move forward in certain areas that you might not have paid attention to. Does that sound reasonable? I've seen nods. And the difference here too is that he's going to be intuitive as he goes through things, and he also needs to be around people more and making a contribution a little bit more than Chris. Chris can be independent, and so he can go off on his own for longer periods of time and then pop out and have solutions for the community. When we work with companies, we use this weighted preference so that we can help people manage their day. If Wade actually had to sit and come up and develop some sort of a system, actually we would let him off the hook. This is the other gift of the CVI. He has a 10 innovator, and so the innovator is all about assessing and solving problems and really digging in to all of that. We would tell him, go find somebody else to do that with. Brainstorm with somebody else. Don't worry about it. You can have the facts and the knowledge and everything. Let them work on that, because your gifts are better off talking with people, seeing what they need to do, and making them do it. If you want to work on that in retirement, you can, but you probably have better things to do. So I'm just going to go around these really quick so that you have an understanding, and then we're going to peek behind the curtain a little bit and see what some clients, how this plays out in their businesses. So the builder is driven by the core value of power, and that's not with a mallet or being big and ferocious, but it's the power of using the personal energy to make a difference. And they're always contributing action and results. That's all they're really, and they don't need a whole lot of facts. So if they have their faith, right, there's a catalyst for each of these. So the faith is that they know what to do now and they know what to do next. And as long as all of that is working, it's great. What happens is when there's a dimmer switch, and it's called an anxiety line here, but it's a dimmer switch. It's that, it's like, oh, I'm not sure. Right? So when something happens and the builder doesn't feel as though they can carry something forward, then there's a conflict strategy that takes over, and that's intimidation. So that may come across as yelling, belittling, something, but being stronger, that kind of puffed up thing. And what happens in the workplace when that happens for people that don't have a lot of that builder, they can feel diminished. They can, and long enough over time, they'll feel like they're walking on eggshells. So each energy is either contributing that energy or it's taking and getting. Every energy just wants to get back, like the body always wants to return to homeostasis. This is that the energy always wants to be in that contribution mode. But when you're in the taking and getting, you're a little bit like the cat in the paper bag. So this is the energy of a woman that heads up the largest, most profitable division in one of the largest financial services company. And so with that builder at 28, we call that kind of a profound builder. And she's not somebody that's going to sit down and come up with the financial plan and the systems for people. So she put a really good team around her. Now, what became important for her, she just wanted to have, just kind of a leadership retreat training to make sure people were on the same page, keep growing. They wanted to go from 20 to 25%. But the other thought that she had in the back of her mind was that she wants to retire in about 5 years. And she thought that she was going to turn the business over to Heather up here. So even though you don't know a lot of what this is yet, I've just described to you builder, and that is the take action and do it. Now, when you look at Heather, what do you see as a difference? Yeah, ain't going to happen, right? So Heather is going to be able to talk to the clients. She'll keep them there. She'll make them happy. But when it comes to actually asking to close the business or say, you need to come and put your money with me, that wasn't going to happen. It was a big eye-opener because she realized, wow, I need to look at my succession planning differently because I'm going to need somebody to go and build new business in addition to taking care of everybody else. And the other thing was that as a very profound builder, she found that she could talk over her staff quite a bit.
Head of a large team. Today I sat with one of the partners and then I stopped dead in my tracks, didn't say a word, zipped my lips, and she looked at me and she said, wow, maybe this session did help. You're shutting up. You're listening to me.
So different things come up, but we get to have fun with this. So the merchant is, the core value is love, working toward the vision of what can be. And so the merchant energy, it's not love, isn't squishy, feely, doormat kind of stuff, but it's really just that excitement, that passion about the possibility of your business and the people around it. So they're always contributing relationships, vision, and they talk through and they listen for what is going to happen. And they look at the lens of everything through the truth of what is and what isn't. So they have really good sniffers for people that are, on the up and up or not. But their anxiety line comes in when they feel like the truth has gone out of a situation, they can't be the truth of who they are with you, and all of a sudden that wonderful loving energy is just gone. And they are now manipulating. So they may be talking to you really nice, but in the back of their mind, they're like, I am so done with this person. I can't even believe it. Right? So again, they're either contributing love, they're the most loving person, or they can be the most hateful person. When something happens and you get on their bad side, good luck getting back in their good graces. This is the CEO of a very large dental practice, and when we went into his company, he was really excited to learn at the end of the day that the biggest impediment to growing his company was himself. And it's because patients would come in and he would talk to them for a half an hour before doing anything. And so they would get so backed up in the process. And what he did was he really called on his builder and innovator and went home over the weekend, automated all of his front-end systems so that he cut the wait time ridiculously, more than in half, and called us the next week and said, because of that, he was having the most profitable week ever in his business because he was able to figure out with his staff, we kind of bolstered them all up, so he would go in, be able to talk with somebody for maybe 3-5 minutes and then get to work and get it done. And the patient felt honored and he was happy. His partner in the business, you can see a complete difference here. So the partner in the business is a 24 banker, which we haven't talked about the banker yet, but it's the least risk-taking individual, and they need to have facts. Prove it, prove it, prove it all the time. And so her prove it all the time was always in conflict with his just do it, do it, do it, have a great conversation, I just bought a new business, you back into it. And so she had just so much on her plate that they wound up, they had somebody who was kind of an interim CFO, and the interim CFO turns out is somebody who sees the systems that need to be in place to make things happen and then is more compelled to do it. So he has this really good mix, and he doesn't need a lot of merchant because there's enough merchant to go around in the business, but he has enough that he can still get along with people in the business and make things happen. And then the other partner has enough banker for everybody, so they didn't need another person to stop things dead in their tracks. The innovator energy is all about wisdom, and its catalyst is compassion. And so innovators are assessing and solving and looking at things. And Lynn says about innovators that for a lot of them, they never met a problem that they couldn't make bigger. So they will look at things and they will not move forward when you want them to. And they'll always, want to be tweaking, and I'm guilty of that. So the anxiety line for an innovator is once they feel as though their wisdom is not being honored. They just gave you this really great idea. You may be in a meeting sometimes, and there's that person in the corner that's always really quiet, and then they speak up and they say something brilliant, like they solved it, and you go, "What? Where did that come from?" Chances are, could be that was the innovator working on how to solve a problem, right? But if you go, okay, yeah, we've heard that before, you've just shut down their wisdom. And now they will pepper you with questions until hopefully you're about this big, and then they've won. And they're trying to get back to the wisdom. So again, either they've given the wisdom out or they've sucked it all out of the room. This is a company. CEO is a pretty profound builder, 28, and really has no off switch, is just on all the time, and has an assistant who needs to do some of the detail, but doesn't need to spend as much time in detail of getting all of this paperwork done. So she's always reinventing the process. And then she really, fortunately what they learned for them is that she needs to be able to come up with a system and a process for this person to actually manage her workload and her time frames, because there was no deadline that she was excited about meeting. And it caused some major delays when she was doing a construction project. The banker is all about knowledge, and that is really just knowing the facts. I mean, these people will sit down and they'll read the physician's desk reference because it's fun, and when you ask them a question, they'll have everything that you need at your fingertips, but only when you ask. And they're catalyzed by justice. So these are the people that are going to make sure that everybody has an equal opportunity for advancement, for money, for opportunity. And the term banker comes from old days of banking the coals. So it's not the banker with the green visor, but it's banking the coals. In fact, a lot of times we worked with accountants, and accountants immediately think, oh, I'm going to be a banker, but they're not. They wind up a lot of times being merchant innovators because they care about people and want to make sure that they have the resources that they need to have a full life. So when the banker feels as though his knowledge or her knowledge has just been disregarded, you asked for this great blue ribbon commission report, they've given you everything, and you go, hey, thanks, and you just walk out, you stick it in your folder and go to a meeting. You've now just offended the knowledge. And good luck getting them back, because you'll never know you're in a fight with them. They just take themselves away. So the next time you ask them for something, they'll be there in body, but you're not getting in. Not until something else happens and you acknowledge it. So they're either contributing their knowledge or they're taking it away. This was a company we worked with. The CEO, innovator, merchant builder, scores very close, which means a kind of a fast movement, not being stuck in one energy for too long. And this was the person that was the chief financial officer. And he had created over the years, making himself indispensable and irreplaceable, at least he thought. Came to find out that there was a $6 million mistake in the books. He'd become so disengaged from his job because somebody had really annoyed his banker that he'd taken himself away from really being engaged in the position. And bringing us in, it just cracked open a conversation that I'm happy to report has only gotten a lot better, because otherwise, if this had gone on, the organization was in danger of having a healthcare, proprietary healthcare software that couldn't be accessed by anybody else, and the same thing with their financials. And it was on a really slippery slope. So there are different risk levels for all of these, and we go through that, and also teach you how to understand whether, if you have a practical job, how to make sure you don't put a creative person in there, or a creative person, make sure that they're not in a practical job. And really take advantage of the intuitive and cognitive energies, or whether somebody needs to be in the community or work on their own more. So what we're able to do with this pre-hiring system is make sure that you have a job description for every position, again, from the boiler room to the boardroom, cashier to the CEO, and it includes a return on investment calculation. And the other thing you get to do is distinguish the A player for any position, the ideal profile, before you actually go out and hire for it. So it's more than the resume, education, or job experience. And then we actually help you use that to build your advertisement in a way that attracts the ideal candidates. And the best compliment you can hear is when somebody says, I just read this and I had to apply. And it's crazy, but that's what happens. And then you're able to identify the best candidates and the top performers for your job opening before you ever look at a resume. So let me repeat that. Before you ever look at a resume, it actually sifts out the candidates before you have to look at anything. So it helps you begin an ongoing talent management process that can be used to increase profitability, productivity, and reduce workplace conflict as well. And for the first time, you can view and measure your employees and assets not as financial liabilities or expensive overhead. So, I mean, if you think about it for a second, how many of you have had to do job descriptions? Is it the most painful thing? Like pulling teeth, right? And how did you come up with your job description?
I asked someone for help because I didn't want to do it.
Okay.
It didn't go very well.
Yeah, it's hard. So a lot of times in larger companies, we find that job descriptions are handed down like fine china. Oh, here it goes, right? And you know, once you've gone through the tough part of creating them, you don't want to revisit it again, right? It was already painful. And so a lot of times, you know, they might get updated from time to time, but it's like, you know, requires full knowledge of Microsoft Office Suite or something like that. And then other times people go on Google, they download them, they take them from other people, and they read like a laundry list. So, and then rarely do people talk about a job description without thinking about a human that's going to go along with it. We separate that. So the first thing is that you want to know, why does that position even exist? And what's it going to do for your company and your bottom line? So what the solution looks like is a profit formula that leads to success and to your team actually moving forward and taking action. And you'll pinpoint also the percentage of time that that position requires, like FaceTime with clients, making outbound calls, how many hours a day someone can expect to have to crunch numbers or stare at a computer. If you have a $10 an hour job position, you'll know how much revenue that $10 an hour job is going to allow your company to generate just because the position exists. So you don't have to guess at performance. You have a structure for immediate real-time feedback. And just imagine how good that clarity will feel, like uncluttered, free of worry. And you can be aligned and congruent in your job search, knowing that that's the candidate you're going to find. The second problem is creating a profile in which, you know, of the person to actually fill the position. So most of the time, you probably depend on a resume, right? Is everybody okay? And a resume does not indicate future performance. Yes? Right. Education may be critical, but perhaps it's not an indication of the ability to do the job. References, everyone checks references, right? Okay? And you know that everybody's telling you the truth because they have to. Then skills, at least you know that you have them. But what this solution looks like using this is that you distinguish the A player, what the A player looks like for your position. So our strong pre-hiring solution decreases your cost of hiring by allowing you to know the core energies of that position and the candidate. So it's another filter. It's the first technology that actually builds on Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and this is what that looks like. And it's always been assumed that, you know, self-actualization is this little thing that you might just be able to touch. We actually have broken it out so that people can understand. We think that you can be fulfilled through your work, and so the art of fulfillment is something that's actually been mapped out, and this is how we actually get you there, looking at the magnitude of the mission and your passions and how do they all fit. And this is, maybe some of you have seen this, but this is kind of how the interview process often goes.
All right, let's get this shit over with. Come on. Have a seat. Don't get too comfortable though. You're never gonna see this office ever again.
Oh, I'm gonna talk as white as I can during this interview.
My smile has got me through everything in life, so I'm just gonna be smiling a lot.
You didn't happen to bring a piece of paper with a surface level description of what you do on it.
I made this in college and it's just covered in lies.
It was a template from online. If you could just not read that.
No, Bridgestone Real Estate does not exist. I saw it on a coffee mug and put it on my resume.
Yeah, I'm not actually reading this. It's just a formality. Let me start by giving you a vague description of what this job entails.
I'll listen poorly.
Yeah, that's gonna help me realize it's never gonna work out.
Now, legally, I'm not allowed to ask you any questions about age, sex, or nationality, but I'm gonna go ahead and make some wild assumptions about you based on your appearance.
As a woman, I wouldn't expect for you to get past a surface level observation.
I'm more concerned with the background check.
I'm gonna try to mold myself into what it is you want me to be.
So tell me, what makes you so special?
You know what? I can't think of a thing.
I'm actually constantly afraid that I'm not special at all.
So when you're not at work, how do you waste your time?
Oh, mostly drinking at bars and hopefully complaining about you in the future.
I'm not listening. Do you have any ill-informed questions for me?
I didn't think about this part at all.
How many people here are like you?
Do you think I got the job?
Well, my gut feeling right now is that you have a lot going on the outside, you are a nightmare to be with in conversation, and you're unfortunately still a woman. So you're not gonna get the job. But let's go ahead and press our dirty palms together anyway.
That's fine. I've got 2 more job interviews to get to today.
Safe to assume I won't hear from you again?
I'm gonna go cry in my car and replay this conversation and tell myself how much an idiot I am.
Well, this was a complete waste of both of our times because I'm just gonna hire the boss's nephew anyway. I will literally never think of you ever again.
And we wonder what the problem is. So how do you interview to know that somebody's a fit? And then how do you separate someone who's just blowing smoke versus real? And wouldn't it be great to know why or why not to trust your gut about a candidate? So with this system, what we do is, this is again the typical way. Probably you come up with a job description, you put an ad out there, you get some calls. And what we find is that the best people are often weeded out from the very beginning. This is simply a screen that allows us to be able to find those top performer candidates. And it saves you, the other thing is, it really does help with the time management process because we cause you to not have to read 95% of the resumes that are sent to you. Your computer actually gives you the CVI score of the applicants and you see high recommended, not recommended, low recommended, and you only look at the high recommended candidate resumes and then you bring them in. So you keep doing your good due diligence process. Make sure you do your background checks. You know, some people do IQ tests, whatever it is that you have to do, make sure that they're going to be able to do the job. But you actually feel relief, lighter about the whole process with this one-step streamlined process. And it is legally tested, it's legal, because you're not looking at a resume at all. You're simply looking at the energy of the position that's required that's going to give you the financial return in your company. When the interview process is happening, we actually help making sure that everybody is mature in the core value nature, and that helps you just let go of a lot of that second guessing and stress. So best hires, at the best, bad hires are inconvenient, but at the worst, they cause companies to lose money, go bankrupt, or shut their doors. And this is our client.
One of the most grueling tasks that I've had in 30 years of being in business was the hiring process. The hiring tool that comes with this whole technology does all the work. It is such a joy now to actually hire people.
It's a manufacturing facility, so the beeps are in the back. But when you experience the Core Values Index system, you'll be wishing that you'd seen it earlier, but it comes down to this. How much is the permanent fixing of your hiring or retention program actually worth to you? And what would you invest to stop spending a fortune on unemployment, retraining, and turnover, and finally be able to find, hire, keep, and promote? It can help with also, there are so many companies that have just cut to the bone, and they haven't restructured the job descriptions. They don't know where to find the right people. They're probably in the company. They just haven't gone through this process. So you can find, hire, and keep the best person for your company. So imagine being able to manage people with a crystal clear pathway to communication and accountability. You might think that results like this would actually cost an arm and a leg, but the truth is that lots of business owners like you are suffering in silence, and they're putting up with bad behavior. They're working doing work that they don't need to be doing. They're working with people that they like, but who can't get the job done. And they're watching their business just be a little less than what they know it can be. And they're spending their hard-earned money wishing that their employees were on the same page. But forget about emptying your pockets and listen up, because I've got some really good news for you. It's time to start having your people strategy line up with your company's success strategy. So we want to let you know that Chris has negotiated a special discount with us for TAB members. Today only you can see Denise, and she's got a special opportunity for a discovery diagnostics session with us. And that's really our starting place. So during that time together, our goal is that you're excited about the future of your company, as excited as the first day that you open your doors. A lot of times, you remember back to that, like, the world's great, right? So we'll review your current talent and performance challenges or desires, any hiring plans that you might have or restructuring plans, and we'll look at your most important people issues through the lens of the core values. And you'll know how to begin to address and resolve some of the issues of non-communication or conflict or things just not getting done or you exhausted because you're doing too much. And then you'll also have a high-level overview of your CVI scores. And that's going to allow you to see why that one area that you really want more success in has maybe just been eluding you. Why sometimes you may be setting goals and making plans that are causing you more pain and struggle in your business. And you'll be able to see what's going on that may be blocking the right employees from actually coming on board with you and how to stop doing that. And most important for us, you'll begin to know how to live the experience of you being your best and highest contribution. And that's what this is really all about at the corner of it all, for your business, for all aspects of your life. So you wouldn't buy a computer without being really clear about why you're making the investment, right? You want to know that it's going to do this for you, it's going to work a certain way. And why would you do anything less for people that work with you? Because they're way more expensive. So see Denise at the back of the room, and I'm just going to go through and see if there's anything else here. We just have, again, this was Joe, just after.
There's always a concern on getting the right team members, getting the right help, and with this technology, I feel 100% confident that whoever we get here will be a match and be a fit.
They've been able to just make so many remarkable changes. I mean, they were able to find more profit in their company, wound up moving into bigger space and actually giving people in a kind of a quasi-retail environment. People were working 6 days, they were able to move them 5 days a week and make just all sorts of really remarkable changes that had them grow. So sign up with us. We hope to work with you during the session. And if there's any questions that you have, come and see us. And thank you so much for your time and attention. It's been really great, and you've been very generous. So thank you, Chris.
You would look at a job opening that I have in my plant or in my business, and you would make up a matrix on what it takes for that, what I'm looking for to fill that job, and then interview candidates and see how their quadrants, how their graph, and that matches up to what you perceive that job to be.
Well, it's all what you perceive the job to be, right? Because we don't know your business. We're not going to pretend that we know what's best. But what we do is facilitate a process with you. So if you think that there is a position that you have, then what we can do is help you identify, the exact core energies that are going to make up the A performer for that position.
And then we're going to take individuals and ask them questions and make their graph up through the graph that you're...
If you're doing a succession planning and you think you might have somebody in the company, that's one way to do it. You can actually take people that you already have once you identify what that A performer type of performance looks like. And then we can take everybody that you have to see, how closely matched are they? Are they within a couple of percentage points? Are they, somebody that you've suspected they've kind of been underperforming and they might be better over here? Because that's what you'll be able to see. A brand new hire?
Brand new hire for a job.
Brand new
I have
hire.
a job, I know that the person that's in that job doesn't fit it.
Okay.
And I'm looking for a replacement person.
Okay, so brand new position, we would absolutely talk with you about that. And then if you decided that you wanted to do that, we, in about an hour, go through the process to identify the right core energy of an A performer for that position, help you write the ad that's going to attract the person to apply for that position. You send out as many CVIs. We don't care if you blanket the entire world. Take in anybody. And then you'll simply get every morning, or within 10 minutes of somebody taking it, you'll be able to open your computer and see who's high recommended, low recommended, not recommended. Then you look at the resume, match it up, do your regular due diligence, and then we will talk with the candidates before you hire them just to make sure that their core values are really there. Because it's important. For example, we worked with one company that needed a warehouse manager that was going to really be able to be a mover and a shaker and get things done. And so they interviewed that person, and seemed as though he didn't really have a lot of access. So what we call that is a sleepy energy. So he needed to be trained. Now, fortunately, the business owner is a profound builder, so his learning curve, how to access that builder energy, was going to be trainable right there. So that's how we help you out. And it works really great if a company has a position that has more than 20 people in that same kind of position, like call centers or inbound, outbound kind of centers, anything, because that's when the technology really is amazing.
And that's it. We'll see you all next month. Thank you.